What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man. I'm going to break down something that was said by Lou Dibella on the Boxing Voice. Shout out to the Boxing Voice. They had an absolutely terrific interview with Lou Dibella, the promoter of the head of Dibella Entertainment. Asked some questions about different fighters, but of course, one of the major things that I found interesting was this conversation about the negotiations for Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua that were taking place, and when he answered some fans' questions about it. So I'm going to get into that because I want to clear up what it is that the man actually said. Before I do that, though, welcome back to the channel. If you're subscribed, if you're not subscribed, I hope that you accept my invitation to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos. And also, you can hope that you would tune into the live streams that we do every Monday through Friday, right around 10:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. And also, just put up some new material and going to be putting up material daily on the Patreon page so that I can talk about some things outside of the boxing world and in a manner which is not necessarily at odds with YouTube's rules and regulations. But I just put up a new video there today, actually a couple videos today I think you guys would like. So I would hope that you go by there, check them out, and that's what that is. So let's get on to this. All right. Lou Dibella was asked a series of questions about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. He was asked about the $50 million, right? And he was asked about whether or not he thought Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua wanted to fight with Deontay Wilder, when he thought it was going to be made, whatever. Those type of questions, the usual. But he explained some things that made a lot of sense to me. But when I was reading in the comments section, it was clear to me that people in the comments section didn't have a clue about what the man was actually saying. So I'm going to walk through what it is the man said, paraphrasing him, about the negotiations that took place between Eddie Hearn and Deontay Wilder. Also, they mentioned things about Sky, BT, whether or not BT was involved in financing the $50 million that was offered to Anthony Joshua, right? Also, he talked about networks and, the difference between partnering between the potential of two networks, like an HBO and Showtime partnering versus two streaming services like ESPN Plus and DAZN working together, right? So this is what he said in summarizing it. He said that he does not believe that Anthony Joshua wants to fight Deontay Wilder because they made a bottom line offer. They made an initial offer, which the way that he phrased it was they tried to buy them out of the fight. Buy them out of the fight. And by buying them out of the fight, he was referring to the flat fee offer, which was originally $12.5 million, which meant that if they accepted the offer, if they accepted that lowball offer, they would not be able to participate in any of the other type of conversations about what television network it was going to be on in the United States, what television network is going to be on in the UK, all of that stuff. But that when Anthony Joshua offered $50 million, came out and said that, Lou Dibella said that he characterized it as something that Anthony Joshua never thought they would come up with. So, Lou Dibella then turns around and says, we found the money. We put the money together and we made him the offer. And then they turned it down. Then there was a specific question. He said, well, what about what he being I can't remember the person who was asking the question on the panel, said, well, what about the proof of funds? And Lou Dibella went bananas. And he said he had never heard of that phrase being used in boxing before he heard it come out of Eddie Hearn's mouth. He was like, proof of funds? What the F is that? Proof of funds. How about this? How about you sign the contract, you fight, and if we don't pay you, you sue us. Right? Now, that right there is saying something that makes sense to me. And I've been saying that for a while. If they doubted that they would pay them the money, why didn't they just sign for it, sign the fight, do what they're supposed to do, and then sue Deontay Wilder's team for the money if they didn't pay? I added one to it. Ask them to put the money in escrow after the fight is being discussed, right? After you've signed, after you've agreed, you settle on the date, you settle on all this other stuff. Why don't you just put it in escrow? But that's just me from the outside looking in as somebody that does not negotiate boxing deals. But Lou Dibella, who has been doing this for decades, said he had never even heard of that before, but thought it was absolutely ludicrous that Eddie Hearn would believe that Viacom, who was the owner of, I think Viacom might be the owner of CBS. CBS owns Showtime, but whatever the conglomerate is, that conglomerate couldn't come up with that money. That conglomerate and Deontay and Al Heyman couldn't come up with that money. He thought it was absolutely foolish. And then he said he was asked this. Now, this was interesting to me because I had heard this said so many times. Well, you couldn't have done the deal because it involved BT Sports. So what Lou Dibella said was, that's the first. He's like, what do you mean Frank Warren said something about BT Sports? I don't know what you mean. And then they repeated the question and he said, man, come on. You're talking about a negotiation. Of course, you're going to find partners. You're going to find partners that you want to participate. But that doesn't mean that when you enter into negotiation that you know who's going to be televising in the UK, who's going to televise it in the United States. And that you very well could start off with a conversation about having it on BT Sports, but it not wind up being on BT Sports, that it could wind up being on Sky. But you do that once you get to the negotiations. That type of stuff is not set in stone. And he said, of course, you're looking for partners. You're trying to put a package together. You're looking for partners. But that doesn't mean that if the other side that you're negotiating with wants the fight to be aired on this network, that you can't get it done just because one of your partners wanted it to be on another network. You can work that out. Or implicit in that is that you can just not work with BT. You can find another way to come up with the money for whatever portion might have been BT Sports, but you actually have to enter into the negotiation for that. And so I'm listening to this whole thing like, as somebody that negotiates deals, I work in contract. I mean, I'm not going to keep. I've negotiated deals every day. That once you come up with an offer, once you guys come up with some baseline agreement, and you're sitting down and talking about how you move forward, that a lot of these things are negotiable. But you actually have to sit down, agree upon some basic fundamental principles. And the first thing is that you guys actually want to have a fight. And his tone was, if we're in the U.S. and we get the U.S. pay-per-view rights, what do we care? Specifically said, what do we care who airs it in the UK? That's not some sticking point for our side. That's a sticking point for their side. But he did bring up the fact that if it was a flat fee, then you don't get any cut of, you don't have any say-so of who airs it, where, and when. That's me assuming that that's what he meant, by the way. But he also referred to that $50 million as an attempt to buy them out of the fight. Buying them out of the fight, which is, I have to believe, here, this is your $50 million, just show up. We will put everything else together, just show up and make the fight, right? But whatever, man. I just find it funny. The thing that I found most funny and most interesting in it was that people in the comment section were saying, Lou Dibella exposes Deontay Wilder. Because that's what made me go back and listen to it. I was just listening to the live stream and I was like, hold on, what is this about? How did Lou Dibella expose Deontay Wilder and BT? So I went back and listened to what he actually said. And all Lou Dibella said was Yeah, sure. They were involved in the initial portion of the negotiation. They would have been. Yeah, we're looking for partners to help fund and help, and help put the deal together. But that doesn't mean that's some set in stone thing. That's some deal breaker that couldn't be negotiated. So if it wound up being that Sky Sports offered the better money, offered the better deal than BT Sport did, then they would have went with BT. They would have went with Sky Sport and not BT. But those are things that you can get to once you start negotiating the agreement. But I just find it so funny because Lou Dibella was listening to these guys ask the question, and Lou Dibella kind of went a little bit berserk. He was like, "Look, man, you guys are boxing fans. You guys are boxing fans. You guys are not negotiating deals, man. Why don't you just talk about the actual fight taking place and stop trying to guess around about what's going on in the negotiations?" And I can understand that because I listen to people that are talking about this, talking about the contract, talking about the offer that was made, talking about this and that. And I know for certain that unless you actually know and have seen what the deal is that was offered, unless you're actually there and know what the specific details are, you really can't. It's very, very hard to speculate on what's going on. But to the extent that you can speculate, if you're not even involved or have never had any real experience in negotiating deals of any type, then it's going to be real hard. You'll just fall for anything. Absolutely, positively fall for anything. You won't understand why in a deal with so much potential upside, why somebody wouldn't want a flat fee deal. Why, if one team, one particular sub issue, right? And I call it a secondary issue, like who controls the UK rights, right? Who's going to air the fight in the UK? And what percentage of that of the UK licensing fees or the UK pay-per-view fees would each party get? All of those, kind of in the grass type of details, that many of those are discussed after the fact, after you've already come up with a couple main decisions, which is, do you want to fight at all? And so his take was that that Anthony Joshua did not want the fight, that the original offer was something where they proved that they didn't want the fight when they basically offered that flat fee, and then doubled up with proving that they didn't want the fight when they got what they asked for, but then they turned that down. Now it's interesting. He said that if at that time they had offered Deontay Wilder $50 million regardless, right, then they would have showed up, right? But that might not be the case now. That's one of the things in Lou Dibella's answer that really kind of struck me. He said that was the case then, but now it might not be the case. And Lou Dibella also said that he previously in an interview, or actually in a press conference with Steven Espinoza in Showtime, he said that he believed that a Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder match might be $100 million fight now. So anyway, it is what it is, but I just wanted to follow up on that, man. Please don't come to my page talking about Lou Dibella exposed Deontay Wilder just because he said that BT, and I don't even think he mentioned BT. I think he purposely tried to avoid saying the name of BT. And I don't know why that would be. Could be like some non-disclose, some issue with him disclosing information around that deal, right? But for whatever reason, it was not a scenario where that was that was some game changer. That if Anthony Joshua or if Eddie Hearn wanted to have it on Sky, that would have been something that couldn't have been worked out, right? That was like a take it or leave it situation. But anyway, it is what it is, and that's my 2 cents on it. Please don't come to me talking about how somebody got exposed, because first of all, you have to understand what the guy said in order for the guy to have been exposed. And it's quite clear that the people in the comment section talking about it didn't have a clue what the guy actually said. But anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.